Well rising family, much love to you all this wonderful day. Welcome back to another edition of our audio reading of the Vodou Quantum Leap. Today, this will begin section 3, and in section 3, we will be dealing with the African origins of the Vodou tradition. In this particular section, we will unpack the historical backdrop and the tribal lineage that exists within the origins of voodoo. In our common culture today, many of us attribute voodoo as strictly some Haitian out of the Caribbean religion, and many of us within the African community and outside of the African community place a lot of great cultural weight, whether bad or good, on who this tradition may belong to. And so, with this section of the reading, we will actually unpack some of the origins of Vodou and unveil that the Vodou tradition is nothing more than an extension of ancient tribal practices collected from multiple tribes throughout various sections of Africa, and that Vodou is actually a composite spirituality or a composite tradition that has been birthed out of the colonial slave trade and therefore created a brand new mystical entity that is, one would argue, much more powerful in its newer collected form than previously when it was sectioned in a smaller, more tribal origin. So, let us begin. What is Vodou? Vodou is the African religion adapted to the conditions of the island of Haiti by incorporating the mythological variants of the belief of all the African tribes forming the New World diaspora, and finds the highest expression in Haitian syncretism. The word Vodou means to the Fawn family linguistics in Dahomey, Togo, means God or spirit. Some researchers have pinpointed the Giveti tribe, native inhabitants of a Bomi plateau in Dahomey, as the originator of the word Vodun, which means divine or deity. There are different types of Voduns, with the different power, position, hierarchy, nature, and temperament. Some are strictly divine, and others are simply human. There are different spellings for the word itself, such as Vodun, V-O-D-U-N, Vodou, V-O-D-U, Vodou, V-A-U-D-O-O, Vodou, V-O-D-O-U, Vodou, V-A-U-D-O-U, Voodoo, V-O-D-O-O, and Voodoo, V-O-O-D-O-O. The Haitians themselves prefer Voodoo, V-O-D-O-U, and Vodun, V-O-D-O-U-N. We will use mostly the latter two spellings. According to the Dahomean philosopher questioned by Melville Herskowitz, Vodou is a immaterial force existing everywhere. For the modern parlance, it is a ubiquitous force existing everywhere in space-time. This force can be actualized as space-time events, persons, objects, and physical matter such as urns, rocks, trees, or rivers. This force is not a product of simple imagination like the Western world would like us to believe, but it is an essence of non-ordinary realities or alternate realities, manifestation of invisible matter, or quantum dimension of the reality of the African intelligence and sensitivity have learned and harnessed to control. The Voduns are spiritual entities or shadow matter entities that have long commerce and interaction with human beings. Some would be the shadow matter component of the tripartite human beings. Some appear to be originally from a parallel universe and then have acquired novel characteristics from long interactions with mankind. Their manifestation on the sensory level of existence in our ordinary reality occurs in a sporadic manner most of the time. Some predisposing factors, rituals, and quantum connection must be produced or be in place to allow an eruption from shadow reality to ordinary reality. The Hongoan Our voodoo priest, whose name means master of the Vodouns, is one who has the knowledge to introduce the manifestation or eruption in our ordinary reality as possession, adorcism, or channelism, or channeling. This knowledge would be the equivalent of the science of an experimental physicist in possession of a super collider type of equipment capable of making manifest the existence of a boson or a fermion. The Hongun makes manifest the shadow matter of the Vodun's reality. There seems to exist an interaction, an attraction for the visible world on the part of the shadow world. The entities of the alternate reality crave for joy, actions, and pleasures of ordinary reality. Thus, they enter into some association, connection, or covenant with earthlings in order to partake in the bounties of visible matter or ordinary common sense reality. The initiates in the mystery of Vodou see the entities as diversely oriented forces that we must harness to dominate nature or to use for good or evil. For some adepts, these forces are amoral, like all energy sources in nature, such as electromagnetic, radio wave, and strong or weak forces. The African diaspora in Haiti was a composite of multiple tribes extracted from different areas of the continent. The majority was from West Africa at the beginning of the slave trade, that is, between the 6th and 18th centuries. Towards the end of the 18th century, a larger contingent was coming from Central and Southern Africa and also from the East Coast. Saint Dominique, the former name of Haiti in colonial time, had received about 30,000 Mozambiques for a period of 20 years. By the time of the French Revolution in 1789, the island had a population of about 465,000 slaves. They were a diverse origin, but with a preponderance of West Africans, such as the Homians of tribes Arada, Nago, Ibu, Yoruba, and Ashanti. Some Islamic groups, such as Piu, Mandinique, and Bambara, are also people of Bantu origin and culture, such as Congo and Angola. However, the term Bantu encompasses a wide variety of people or tribes, particularly originating in the Zaire Basin located between the division of the Nile River, or Nile in Il River, and the Zambezi River. That includes Pauan, Fang, Mangbitu, Zende, Lele, Loba, Launda, Koba, and others. According to J. Greenberg, cited by Key Zerbo, there are some linguistic relationship between the Bantu Hausa and the ancient Egyptian, as well as with Songhai and Maasai, revealing a common background Paleo-African in the Neolithic Sahara, from which came the civilizations of the Valley of the Nile and the civilizations of the Bantu. The Haitian Vodou is the result of a syncretism between the Dahomean and the Bantu religion systems with a preponderance of Dahomean infrastructure. That religion has been the integrative force unifying the different cultures and African ethnics into a new national identity. Syncretism is an archetypal concept in Dahomey religious thinking. It began early as the tendency towards homogeny led the first tribe to conquest of other territories in the 16th century AD. The original tribe was Aja or Aja. Later on, it split into two factions. This is one as the Aladohonu, and it became the ancestors of a very strong Dahomean kingdom in the 17th century. They created their own ancestral religion with two main Voduns, Aizan and Agaso. Then they deified their king Aja under the name Ajahunto. Having taken their abode the lands of other indigenous tribes, they incorporated in their forming pantheon, Ida, the Vodou of the land Alada, then Ouye, Gedi, and after vanquishing the Gaveti and Dan Idu Howedu, a Vodun of the Danju tribes. With the conquest of Savi, the serpent of Auda known as Dangbe was included in the pantheon. With that incorporation came some nefarious practices such as human sacrifices and the slave trade. Between 1650 and 1708, they occupied completely the Abomi Plateau. Their fourth king, Agadaja, introduced another powerful deity by the name of Sakpata. His successor, Tegbesu, adopted the cult of the divinities Mawalisa and Hevioso. Those Voduns were introduced into Dahomey by Hawanduele, a priestess mother of the king. She was to be deified after death and is known in Haiti today under the name of Owen Gile. When the Dahomeyan annexed Durkin, they accepted two new Voduns from that land, Akolubda and Bade. The Nago or Yoruba people had exerted a great influence on the religious thinking of the Abomian people. Some prominent Voduns come from the Yoruba, such as Legba, the interpreter that can translate messages received in the dialects of the tribal gods. He is also known as the trickster Ogu, the warrior god and patron of the blacksmiths or ironworkers. He is from a royal line of Oyo in Ife in Yoruba land. Some modern historians, such as Jean Playa, place the Dahomean religions on the same category as that of ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, as he wrote. We should not confuse them with sorcery. The Christian missionaries have given us an exact presentation of these traditional religions, even though they have condemned them without discrimination and have destroyed artifacts such as the masks. In writing. The supreme couple of the Dahomean pantheon is Lisa and Mau. They would be a variant version of Osiris and Isis. However, they come from the Yoruba or Nagu pantheon, where they are known as Osala and Yimowo. But in the Fon language of the Dahomean, those names have been abbreviated into Lisa and Mau. According to Kizerbo, they represent respectively the sun and the moon. Below them are an array of lesser gods acting as vectors of the supreme deities in their actions on earth, and they are specialized in different sectors of reality. They are the Voduns. Those Voduns were divided in three groups: the Voduns of heaven, the Voduns of earth, and the Voduns of thunder and the sea. These Olympian gods were not currently served by the masses, but by the majority of initiates. The rituals for the familiar and personal deities were the most common. The cosmology of the Dahomean began with a creator named Nana Buluku, who by nature is androgynous. From him emanated Mawu and Lisa, who are twins, and they are also spouses. Then came Ogu, or Gu, who was a force like the demiurge, Ra of the Egyptian. Ogu is used by Mawu to transform the universe, to bring order out of chaos. Ogu is then the intelligence at work of the world. He is the god of civilization and has revealed metallurgy to men. Small pause here as we continue on. We've made both mention to ancient and modern occult themes here in this scientific inquiry, or at least in this historic inquiry in this book. Dr. Crosley made a reference to a collider machine, which is what we deal with today, and he also makes mention of the demiurge. Now, both of those things have been tied to modern day occult conspiracy, but understanding the quantum nature and origin of both of those quote unquote occult entities This book is actually giving us a great illusion or giving us a great entryway into what those groups are actually seeking. And as it is understood through the ancient practice of, of Vodou, they are actually seeking communication. And so, as we see here, these particular practices have been well established in communicating and discovering and unpacking the quote unquote dark side or the hidden side or the spiritual side of our existence. And we are now seeing how different traditions and new scientific investigations that we are dealing with today are actually seeking the same thing. And so once we know the origins and the backdrop of what is actually happening in these large scale occult activities, we will see that there's nothing to fear and that we were actually attempting to communicate with something that is innately within us all. Back to the book. Then came the Voduns to earth. The first one is Sakpata, who beget Zodi, Zoji, and the non-identical twins, Nawe Ananu, and also Sogbo, or So, an androgynous Vodun. All of them participate in the government of planet Earth. Sogbo beget Hevioso, the thunder god whose symbols are a ram and a double-edged axe. But according to the Lelis Discretion, Hevioso is a generic name under which many gods are assembled. They are divided into two groups. One group deals with thunder and the other deals with the sea. There exists a perpetual tension between the Voduns of the earth and that of the thunder and rain. Sogbo is the master of the rain. Also belonging to the Hevioso pantheon are Egbe, which is Ague in Haiti, and Naete, Voduns of the sea. Age, the hunter, in Do, or Dojo, the Vodun of the air or the breath of life. The priests of the Hevioso pantheon will come up with variants in the Dahomean cosmology. For them, Sogbo is also a supreme god, but a hidden god, indifferent to the affairs of men, like the Haitian Bondai, as we will see later. As far as the creator is concerned, one can see monotheism in Dahomean theology. It speaks of Mau as the creator instead of Nanu Baluku, who is too distant and unfamiliar to the masses. The Voduns are intermediates between Mau and mankind, a role similar to that of the Christian Messiah or saints, and the angels, archangels, and cherubim in the Judeo-Christian tradition. We will see later how this characteristic will facilitate another syncretism with the Catholic religion in Haiti. Side by side with the official pantheon existed another popular hierarchy of deities or Voduns forming the ancestral cult. It established a privileged commerce between the clan and the sacred, between the secular and the religious, the maintained cohesion within the mystical body of the clan. The beginning of the clan has a fantastic aspect that is similar to the phenomenon reported in Genesis, chapter 6 in Judeo-Christian Bible, before the great flood of Noah's time. As it writes, when men began to multiply on earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of heaven saw how beautiful the daughters of man were, and so they took for their wives as many of them as they chose. At that time appeared the Nephilim on earth. And after the sons of heaven had intercourse with the daughters of man, who bore them sons, they were the heroes of old, the men of renown. Genesis 6, 1-4. End quote. After the creation of the world by Mau, men did not show much creativity, and the population of the world was very scant. Lisa and Ogu had to intervene to teach some basic sciences in metallurgy and agriculture. Then came on other supernatural beings, probably from the shadow matter realm. They emerged from the slopes of mountains, from the clouds with the rain, from the local trees, from the bottom of the rivers of subterranean abodes. They materialized as men and had intercourse with women. From these unions came the progenitors or founders of clans. Having boundary constraints, the supernatural beings could spend only a limited period of time in the visible world. So, before their departure, they gave instructions to their sons about their unusual conception, taught them their role as heads of the clans, revealed to them their secret of the sacred objects, talismans, magic, wands, the elementary taboos, and the service of the Vodoons and deified ancestors. The Dahomean Nephilim were named Tawio, that's Towyo, at the origin of the kingdom of Dahomey. We found a Bigondu, daughter of the king of Tado, who, following intercourse with a male panther on the realm of shadow matter, had two sons. One of two sons was Agoosu. The latter, with his son Lande, contributed to the glory of Tado. The ethnic scarifications with long lines on the neck are the hallmarks of the panther ancestor. The teachings received by the Tawiyu, or Nephilim, can be acquired only through initiation at maturity. This is an esoteric knowledge jealously kept by the elders to prevent malefic action against the clan and to maintain their sway over the younger generations. The oldest senior of the clan, who has the deepest initiatory knowledge, is the Hinungoan. He is like a vicar or a mythical founder of the clan. His close contact with the psychionic shadow matter entity put his life in constant danger, and he does not live long because of his composite state with the Vodou. An archetypal synchronic Voodoo in the Dahomean theology is Dambada Wedo. He is the incarnation of the forgotten ancestors. In that sense, he is the counterpart of Ayuwedo, of the official religion representing all the ancient creator gods before Maun. Death is not the end of the individual like it was in early Judaism. Thou art dirt, and into dirt thou shalt return. And as in modern scientific thinking, the tripartite nature of man, whose composition includes visible matter, shadow boson, and quanta, allows the survival of the souls in which a manner that the departed ones are not really departed to the never land, but are still present among the living and require some attention. Their offspring call on them in moments of need and despair, on occasions such as marriage, a long journey, or a troublesome period of puberty. The ancestors are contacted through simple service or rituals similar to the worship at home called puja in Hinduism. The offerings and sacrifices may consist of a rooster, beans, and corn flour. Besides these puja-like sacrifices, the ancestors need the great cyclical rituals with large family reunion. According to Melville Herskowitz, the ancestors, like the living descendants, love banquets and give them opportunities to dance, eat, and drink with the members of their clan. On these occasions, they enter into composite state or possession of the younger members of the family. No profound initiation is needed to facilitate the crisis of possession of the youth. Only protective rituals are performed to protect them from ill effects coming from the composite state with shadow matter. Immediately after death, the shadow matter of a departed one is a dangerous entity that must be sent away with proper rituals. The descendants don't call on them at the time and moment of need. Every 3 years in the Dahomean liturgy, rituals of expedition are performed to establish a secure place for the dead in the netherworld. It was only after 10 years that a ritual of deification or canonization is performed to elevate the deceased to one of the statuses of Vodun or to Vodou. The second root of African religion implanted in Haiti comes from the Bantu background, particularly from the Bakongo. This culture also has conceptualized the existence of a supreme god named Nizambi, who is not as distant and indifferent as the Nana Bukulu of the Dahomean. He is always present in the affairs of the living as immanent justice. There are no special rituals or services devoted to the supreme God. All the rituals are directed to the good ancestors, Vodoons named Bakulu, who are intermediary between human beings and the supreme God. However, the knowledge to deal with the Bakulu come from Mzambe himself through revelations. The immanent justice of Mzabi is at the core of ethics in Vodou. The notion of good and bad lives in there. Mzabi intervenes in everyday life to punish incest by epidemics, drought, famine, and barrenness in women. Adultery is punished by a specific disease called Kesa that affects the guilty parties as well as their children, a disease that causes a gastroenteritis like disease with vomiting, flatulence, and diarrhea. To stop the chastisement of Mzabi, the authorities of the clan request public confession or capital punishment. There is no propitiatory right. However, the good and bad deeds in life do not determine the fate of the soul in the afterlife with Mzabi. The Supreme God does not intervene in the post-mortem status of the individual. This aspect of existence is under the control of the deceased ancestors and the Bukulu. The wicked and the immoral are excluded from their abode by the good ancestors. Thus, the excluded souls become Baka, obnoxious wandering ghosts. Baka, obnoxious wandering ghosts. The abode of the ancestors is still on earth. The clan structure of the Bakongo is an entity composed of the society of the living in prolongation with the society of the deceased ancestors. They intervene to form a mystical clan with two faces. This is the true foundation of the Bakongo religion with a dominance in the Bakulu cult. Later on in Haiti, the true Bakulu will acquire a new meaning. It is used today to designate a malevolent person, a deceiver. It has replaced the Bakongo term Matebo or Tibo, equivalent of a Baka or demon spirit. The use of occult power in a nefarious manner is what constitutes dark magic in the Bakongo tradition. The same shadow force or invisible entity can be exploited for a good cause as well as criminal purpose, so that the boundaries between dark and white magics is very blurred. However, the Bagongo people use the devious shadow entities for bad deeds, namely the Metebo or the Nkita. The latter are the souls of people who died a violent death, such as in wars, suicide, or murder. In Haiti, these types of obnoxious shadow entities are acolytes with some other violent Vodouns in the practices of the secret societies such as the Zobak, the Sampawel, and the Vlandigan Bay. In the Bakongo perspective, magic has a composite orientation. A positive aspect is reached when one uses the Nkita for protection or to ward off malevolent actions from enemies. A negative aspect exists when one uses the Matibo to destroy good people or innocent individuals. One of the major contributions of the Bakongo to the Dahomean religion in Haiti is that of the Nkesi, called fetish by the Europeans. The Nkesi is essentially a psychionic condenser, that is, an object endowed with an accumulation of shadow force or Matebo origin. The owner of the artifact Nkesi has dominance over the shadow force of the Matebo or the Nkita. The priest lending the service to the respected and benevolent ancestors Bakulu is not allowed to bring into the sanctuary any Nkesi artifacts. Thus, more modern science has allowed man to harness the forces of ordinary matter manifested through electromagnetic fields, radio waves, infrared, and X-rays to create electromagnetic gadgetry, and the natives of Africa have discovered techniques to harness and control manifestations of dark matter or invisible matter. Later on, we will see how far this knowledge of the parallel universe of the Africans and their descendants in Haiti are. Short pause. That last section talks about how modern science seeks to harness shadow energy through the use of fetish or through the use of external artifacts and embedding the shadow matter into the artifacts. And so, as we see, modern inventions that increase our communication or have aided our movements are nothing more than condensed shadow matter objects that have ideas imprinted into them, which actually make them move. And so we see here one of the big differences between African ways of living and quote unquote modern or maybe European ways of living is that the European way of living seeks to fetishize or essentially make objects embedded with spirit so it can be for their use, where the African actually is more interested in spanning and discovering the parallel universes of the things that we can't see. So that would explain one of the intrinsic differences in the nature of indigenous people versus people who are either of European descent or people who have adopted European ways of living and ways of thinking. And so when they talk about support, the pseudo superiority or inferiority based on some type of racial contribution to the world, these occult or these quantum understandings actually reveal that it's more so about an orientation of interest. Many of the indigenous people have not invented and done great things simply because they are not interested in using spirit in that way, while other groups are interested in taking the spirit matter and bringing it down here to earth. So it really is more so of a difference of ideals, more so than a difference in capability. So let's continue on. Before the discovery of electronics, all the concepts behind our technological achievements in the 20th century would be classified as magic. A remote control to open the garage door, to turn on and off the television, set or a radio, and to open or lock a car door was nothing but a nakisi. With PictureTel, we can have a video conference between an American Indian tribe in the United States and an Aboriginal tribe in Australia facing a quote-unquote magic box or television set. The concept of transmitting the copy of a document through space-time by fax would be ascribed to the deepest magic. Thus, the Vodou or the Bokor using the Nakisi is just ahead of us in shadow matter technology and quantum manipulation. Let's be honest with ourselves. We do not understand the fine details of the quantum manifestations or the very nature of the forces of nature, such as gravitation, gluon, and the like. We do not know these things in their essence while we are using their revealed properties to create wonder in our civilization. Likewise, the Tuvondo, using the shadow forces and psychotronics to create Nkesi, do not know all of the physiology of the alternate realities. Thus, for the Bantu technocrat in Vodou alternate reality, the Nkese is an artifact or gadget containing a force, an energy field from the shadow matter dimension, or a spirit in common parlance. That force is under the command of a man, the man who possesses the Nkesi. This is the opposite of the repository conception in which the shadow matter entities dwell in their own choosing in trees, rocks, stones, rivers, and ponds. These natural abodes are resting places for the spirits. The Bogongo practitioner has received an initiatory knowledge, allowing him to capture the shadow matter entity and to imprison him into the artifact Nkesi, like we use modern knowledge to create batteries, generators, and the like. A Nkesi can be created with a small statue of a human or animal, a sack, a vase, a shell, etc. Relying on one type of technology, like we are doing with our 20th century civilization, can be detrimental at times. A power failure in a city can create havoc in many aspects of life. Likewise, the Vodouist, who relies entirely on the shadow matter technology, can run into serious difficulties. Those Nkesi can be very specific or hold many purposes, depending on the technology applied for their composition. In Haitian culture, they are called wanga. Some are created to enhance fecundity in women, to ease the pain of childbirth, to increase agricultural products and the finishing loads. Some are created for therapeutic measures only. Others act against the Ndoke or Wangante or Boker in Haitian terminology. The latter are perpetrators of malevolent acts against other people. Some Nkesi blocks the Nkesi of the malevolent practitioner or destroys the practitioner himself. In the production, an Nkesi enters a quantum connection. A shadow matter entity is inserted or captured inside the Nkesi artifact. That entity is taken from a riverbed, lake, or pond, a natural abode of the souls of deceased people. The clay from the riverbed that has been in contact with the shadow matter entity carries with it a holographic fraction of the entity and behaves like the whole entity in attacking the enemy. However, for the Nkesi or Wanga to be effective, an amplitude modulation must be introduced to reinforce the power of the energy parcel. The syncretism that combines the elements of a Dahomean infrastructure with the concepts of Bantu origin gives a new national identity, as well as a variant of the African religion, the Haitian Vodou. The various entities or Vodoons of the Dahomean pantheons and the Bakongo worldview will be realigned into three groups or Nanchins. Nanchin is a Creole word for nation or family of Vodun or Loa. The word Loa of Congo origin is the most frequently used in Haiti and designate a being of alternate reality. The African Haitian religion or Vodou is composed of three pantheons. The Rada pantheon, the most prestigious one, contains the Loa of the Dahomean infrastructure. The fundamental principles and core rituals of Haitian Vodou religion come from the Rada liturgy. The initiation rite, which is like a baptism of a new chapter of Honsi, is called Kanzo. This is conducted according to the Dahomean ritual. The Desuin ritual, which is the separation of Loa from the remains of the adept, follows the same liturgy. This is the disruption of the quantum connection or the composite state between an indwelling spirit and the deceased. The separation is accomplished when the Loa is reasoned to another member of the family, usually a son or a daughter who, from that election on, will lead a symbiotic life with the Vodun. The Rada pantheon is supposed to represent the peaceful, benevolent aspect of the forces that are the Voduns. The Petro pantheon manifests the tumultuous, bellicose, forceful, and dangerous aspect of the deities. The Congo pantheon also represents the nefarious, destructive, and dark magic aspects of the forces. The major Loa or Voduns of the Rada pantheon have a Dahomean or Yoruba origin. Asago, or the Nephilim-like ancestor of the Toio of the sectionist clan Aja, inaugurated the Dahomean kingdom. He is the offspring of a shadow matter entity, a panther, a Abigondu, a princess. However, in Lila's Squarian presentation of the Vodun, Agosu is a panther itself, and during the possession, the hands of the adept are curled up like claws. In Haiti, he is associated with the aquatic Loa. Aizan is the Vodun of the Alahonu, or a separatist clan of the Aja tribe. He became their tutelary deity, leading them to independence following the internet struggle. His repository tree or symbol is the palm tree. He is the presiding Loa in the market phases of the protector of the merchants. He plays an important role in the initiation ritual of Honsu Kanzo. Bosu Troy Crones, the three horns Bosu, was an ancestral Loa of the royal family of Tohosu land, who was a deformed offspring and was canonized as a sacred monster, or a Toksu. The cult of Bosu no longer exists in Dahomey. Azaka, a royal origin also in Tohosu land, was transformed into an astute peasant in Haiti. He is usually dressed with the typical gross blue or denim, carrying a bandolier and smoking the cachimbo or earthen pipe. There exists a variety in this loa: Azaka Vodou, Azaka Mede, Azaka Si. Oungile, of royal origin, mother of the king Tegosu, a priestess or Mambo, was canonized as Vodun after death. Gidi was Loa of the netherworld, Hades, or realm of the dead. He belonged to the tribe that was displaced by the Fons invaders and the Abomu religion. His personality has been subjected to many avatars by the psychic option of the adepts. However, Gede is primarily a generic name, a family of the lower governing the kingdom of death. They should not be confused with the souls of the deceased or the wandering obnoxious spirits called the Baka or Table. They are more clown-like in actions and demeanor. We can mention Gede Brave, Gede Double, Double, Gede Fatras, Gede Nibo, Gede Tipete, Gede Z Arinenge, the Spider Gede, and Gede Tiwawa. There is a subgroup of Gede called Barons, and who are more on the tragic side of life. They perform a triad under the name Baron Samadhi, Baron Lacroix, and Baron Simtimier. There we have, pause, there we have Baron Samadhi, or Baron Samdi, who's very popular in the Pan-African type of community. And here we are seeing his origins impact. And as we may see here, pause, many of these origins, they are actually based upon actual historical happenings of tribal wars and cultural transitions. And we see here that what would be called losing factions or losing lineages out of war, they are the ones who were placed in the netherworld or the underworld and are the overseers of such. So when we talk about different entities and where they may or may not belong in theology or cosmology or consciousness, most of the times we are actually relating this to something historically that has taken place, and we are appropriating where they belong based on how they performed in life. Take that on for a second. But as we see here, regardless of however they performed in life, their position is still actually deified, and still some energy or permanence or some type of other sense of worthiness is still applied into their otherworldly function. Back to the reading. Gedi Nebo is considered by some adepts as the head of the Gedi family. He reigns over the cemetery, and the Bokar who wants to use the soul of a dead person to cast a spell must obtain from Gedi Nebo the permit to do so. Ogu represents himself as a generic name, also with an array of personalities such as Ogu, Badagris, a god of war, and master of thunder and storm. In the sanctuary of Homfor, his symbol is a sword stuck in the ground before the altar. Ogu Shango is also a deity of storm and thunder. Ogu Balundojo is a deity of the sea and captain of great Ogu ship. Ogubala is a Vodun of Yoruba tradition. Ogu Farele is a blacksmith. Legba is also a generic name with about 16 different personalities. His principal attribute is interpreter of the Voduns. In a quantum world like that of Loa's, communication by telepathy would be standard between the deities. But for some unknown reason, Legba interprets messages for the various Voduns coming from different tribes. He plays the same function between humans and Voduns. He can be seen as a telepathic, panpsychic connection. All services or rituals to the Loa must begin by an invocation to Legba to open the door of communication between the two realities. He has been compared to St. Peter, the guardian of the key of the kingdom in Catholicism. He is also the guardian of the doors and the fences around houses and road intersections. The practitioner of dark magic must also call on him to perform their nefarious deeds and for exorcism. In Dahomey, he was a flamboyant trickster, but but in Haiti, his avatar is that of an old, decrepit man in rags, smoking a chicumbo, or a large cigar, a sack on his shoulder, and walking awkwardly on crutches. For this, he is nicknamed Legba Pita Kase, the broken-legged Legba. However, Legba superstition or composite state is a violent crisis of possession. It is a sudden, brutal eruption of a force in an adept. The possessed often resist this brutal penetration from the lower in his person. The struggle can be mistaken for a grand mild seizure and can be truly an epileptic seizure introduced by the urge of magnetism on the person's nervous system. At times, the possessed may be struck down, immobile like the victim of a lightning bolt. But most often cited Legba are Adiban Legba, Legba Avarda, Legba Mait Kofu, Legba Mait Bi Legba Mait Bidation, Vi Legba, and Legba C. And just to pause for a moment, as I'm reading this is an interesting discovery for me. I reflect upon in my own spiritual experience having a very resistant field experience that was extremely paralyzing. That aptly describes this particular instance of Legba arriving as one may enter into the gateway of spirituality. At the time when this took place, I was definitely in that particular transition, and as the book describes, it is a rather jarring and unwelcomed experience. One of the reasons being is because this experience is opening the doorway into a completely other world. And in this completely other world, it feels foreign to all of the sensory perceptions and is akin to what would be death. And due to the fact that all of us are filled with an ego, which only has one desire, which is to live, the presence of Legba coming into one, or literally, as it says, drilling himself into your consciousness and embracing the doorway of a completely different dimension of orientation, will literally frighten yourself and or spark your ego to where you will resist it and you will think that something very, very, very bad is happening to you, when ultimately the best thing that could possibly happen to you is actually taking place. So true spiritual experience that actually does get in contact with the other side is actually not something that many of us will actually want to physically endure. And so most instances where people talk about they had a interaction with quote unquote God and things of the like, if they have not had any prior to experience of any near death or any jarring, unwelcome experience, most likely they were only talking to aspects of their own shadow self and nothing actually from the other side. Back to the reading. Dumbala Wedo, known in Dahomey as Dumbala Wedo, is an archetype of the clan of the serpent as a symbol of white artifacts as paraphernalia. Aduwedu, known in Africa as Aduwedu, is the synthetic figure of all the forgotten creators in Dahomean cosmology. In Haiti, she is the spouse of Dumbala, and her symbol is also the serpent. They are present in all important rituals such as the Honsi initiation and the consecration of the mammoth drum called Astator, inhabited by the spirit. In Haiti, their reality has been transformed into a more anthropomorphic couple with a dramatic love life. Also, they belong to the realm of the white aquatic Vodouns. The humifor or sanctuary is a basin filled with water that is usually placed near the altar at their disposal. The rainbow or celestial serpent is also their symbol. A close encounter or possession by these Vodouns recreates the behavior of a serpent. The possessed crawls with a serpentine notion on the ground, climbs on trees and on roofs, and then goes down head first like a boa constrictor. Dumbala does not speak, he whistles, and his utterances must be interpreted by another Loa, Legba, or Ogu. Sabgo, brother of Bosu Troy Crones, Corones is the god of thunder like Ogu, and the deity of the meteorites falling from heaven. Those meteorites were used by the Indians to create axes. Today they are used as symbols of the lower or cyclonic condenser like the Nkesi. Bade, inseparable companion of Sogbo, is the Vodun of wind and storms. He shares this function with Agau, shadow entity of tempest. The composite state with Agau is extremely violent. The interruption of that force in a person can be so brutal that it can cause sudden death. Those who can sustain this assault utter sounds reminiscent of thunder and tempest. They are like God's bombarder. When they rumble, the heavens shake. Auge, Vodou in the sea, is the Neptune equivalent. The name in Dahomey is Agbe or Ogabe. In Haiti, he is also known as Agoe Teyaro and is a mulatto. A great service or ritual for Auge takes place at sea in a boat. The offerings are thrown into the waters, food, drinks, live white lambs, or white chickens attached to a miniature boat. The people in superposition state with Auge usually plunge into the sea and swim towards the shore while in a trance, unaware of their action. Loco, a Haitian Asclepios, can reveal the secrets of plants for medicinal purposes or positioning. He is the master of the sanctuary or humophore for the patron or the hongoan. Two variants of this Exionic deity are known: Adan Loco for the Ume and Dahomey, and Loco Atisu from the Hula. A composite state with Loco is not violent. He smokes the earthen pipe and walks with a peasant's cane. Orzuli, or Easily, is a very popular feminine deity in Haiti. Her name is a generic name comprising about 25 different personalities. According to Pierre Verger, the Orzuli name came from Azali or Aziri, a Vodun Dijede of Dahomey. Some entities go by that name also in Petro and Congo pantheon. The most common one is the Rada pantheon, or Azili Frida Dahomey, Matrius Orzili and Orzili Doba, and Grand Orzili. Orzili is a shadow matter Aphrodite, presented as a beautiful mulatto. She is also a divinity of the sea, but she prefers to evolve in the realm of feminine beauty and coetic affairs. A channeling state with Orzuli leads to the man or the woman into a flirtatious romp. She is a female fatale who has had affairs with Dumbala Wedo and liaisons with Auge Teyoro and Ogu Badigri. Gede Nebo has been trying to get lucky with her without success because she dares not like dark-skinned people. She is prejudiced, but the Haitians don't take her prejudice seriously. It is more of a clownish attitude. The Petro Pantheon has contributed to part of the infamous reputation given the Vodou religion by the Western world and exploited to great extent by Hollywood. The lower of this pantheon are not as benevolent, serene, or amusing like the Rada group. They are the benevolent ones that induce dangerous, lethal state trance and give momentum to dark magic. According to Alfred Metru, the word Petro suggests the idea of brutal force, callousness, and ferocity. All magical spells are under their control. Descurion cautioned that not all of them are bad. Many are helpful and decent, particularly the healers among them, and that this is very important for the Black Republic in their role in the independence war of the nation against the colonial superpower France. They are at the forefront of the struggle for liberation. The Creole Loa belongs to that group. They are indigenous Vodouns born or created in the island proper. This is the open compartment of that alternate reality, where individual and famously and famously proper ritual can elevate the shadow entity of the deceased relative to the status of Vodun. The reality in that parallel universe depends to a great extent on the options of the living. The Chthonian or dark side of the Olympian Rada, Voduns, belong also to that pantheon according to Alfred Mitru. This comparison may be more than just a figure of speech. There is a possibility that the subterranean world, the Chthonian world, or Cthulhu, spelled similar to Cthulhu, the CHTH, as in Cthulhu, is the confines of the dark matter entities, that is, all the lower, namely Rada, Petro, and Congo. There are no extraterrestrial beings among them, none of them from outside the solar system. The supernatural beings that materialize on Earth after Mawu, Lisa, and Ogu came from Chthonian abodes emerging from the slopes of mountains, from the bottoms of rivers, and from the trees, and others from the clouds with rain. It is highly probable that the ones from the clouds came originally from the subterranean abode. The Greco-Roman mythology places the realm of the dead in subterranean location in Judaism in first century, places Abraham's bosom, hell, and Gemeta inside the earth. The apocalyptic bottomless pit where Satan is bound for 1,000 years is located in the Chthonian dimension. Some of the Bantu Loa belong to that pantheon. In fact, most of the Petro rituals have non-Dahomean hallmarks. The Congo has played a prominent role in the elaboration of the Petro liturgy. The essence, the influence of the Congo have been interwoven of demonic, nefarious, dark magic into Dahomean infrastructure. In the northern regions of Haiti, the Petro pantheon is designated by the Congo world Limba, which means to appease. Thus, in Africa as well as in Haiti, their rituals are performed with the purpose of appeasing those dangerous dark matter entities. Don Petro, or Don Pedro, is the name of a powerful Hungun, or colonial time in Saint Dominique, who apparently was a great leader in the formation of this pantheon and its rituals. He was canonized as Vodun after his death. Moreau de Saint-Péry reported the existence in 1768 at Goutet Goave of a black man who was originally from a Spanish colony who could be our Don Petro. He inaugurated a very fast dance that could facilitate the trance induction and the composite state of possession, not only of one person but of a whole assembly of spectators or Vodouists. In contemporary service, Don Pedro is a very mighty axionic force that is perceived in a sanctuary with detonation of cannon powder. Don Pedro is also psychic, gifted with clairvoyance. His connection with other shadow matter entities could modulate his own wave function so that through ubiquity he could see events at a distance beyond solid walls. Tijane Petro is the son of Don Petro, and he has had a bad reputation as a demonic voodoo. Petro de Rogue, the Red Eyes Petro, is another malevolent shadow being. The red eyes are characteristics of sorcerers. However, this trait is frequently seen in black people in Haiti. Many alcoholics have red eyes, and some hypersensitive patients have this presentation. Thus, people must be cautious about labeling someone a sorcerer. Tijane de Perchete, Paicheche, is a devilish midget with one leg. Most of the lower presented with that description fall into the category of demonic spirits. The other leg was subjected to a process of atrophy. They are very bitter with criminal deposition. Such is Marinette P. Keche, one of the most feared deities of the Petro family. She is a devil bent on destruction and mayhem. Her symbol or avatar is that of an owl. In Haiti, her presence is always a sign of bad omen, or people think that a bad spirit is materialized into the appearance of an ugly bird. When Marionette Picheche enters into channeling with an adept, the latter mimics the behavior of the owl. Marionette is revered by the Laograu, or Dracula type of adept, that has the ability to be metamorphosized into a wolf or a lycanthrope. At night, she wanders the forest in search of bad deeds, and it is there that her servants bring her offerings that are deposited in secret places. She wants to eat alone because she is selfish and stingy. Haitians in general do not like to talk about those demonic Vodouns. They prefer to talk about the benign Vodouns and the Rada pantheon. They want to establish a distance between themselves and the practitioners of the dark arts, as they call Bokor or sorcerers. Their respectable priests are called Honguan, and the practice of the dark arts requires a special initiation, and it is very mysterious occult type undertaking. The Vodouist who is not serving with two hands, that is practicing magic, always needs some protection against these menaces and other secret societies and evil doers. And at this present time, we will conclude Volume 3 of Haitian Vodou. For our next edition, we will continue to unpack more of the deities and their belonging to dark side and or light side matters. But as it stands today, we have concluded our reading on the African origins of Vodou and unpacked a few of their cosmological understandings and uses thereof. I am your reader, Pharaoh Brown. This is We Meditate. Be well, family.